Hey guys, it's Shirley, and today I bring you a new Sona design. I've been thinking for a while about redesigning my Sona, and seeing the video that ATLA Draws did about redesigning her Sona kind of inspired me to finally go around to doing it myself. For those of you who don't know, a Sona is a character that you use to represent yourself. They can look a lot like you, they don't have to look like you, they're just a representation of you for whatever you want to use them in. For me, for example, I use my Sona for talking sprites whenever I'm talking, so you have like a character of me that you see while I'm talking. But yeah, this video is basically going to go into the evolution of my Sona over the years and then like walk you through my redesign and my current design that I plan to use for my Sona. So let's get into the video. If you want to count like my doodles of myself as a child as my Sona, then I guess the way I used to draw myself was just curly hair stick figure, pretty straightforward. I also had a pony Sona back in middle school, but I can't find what I did with that drawing. I was that kid who drew pony Sonas for my whole friend group. So the first time that I actually like designed my Sona was when my friend Flynn, or Flying Stars Animates, wanted to make Pride Month art 4 years ago of our characters, and they were asking if I had any references of like my own OC or Sona that I could use. And at the time I did not have one yet, so I was like, you know what, I will draw one. And I drew a Sona of myself as quickly as I could. And like, her design's pretty simple, and this rendition of my Sona is very much based on what I looked like in high school. The main things of note were the hoodie dress, because I loved the idea of a hoodie dress. At the time, I had a hoodie dress in high school and it was my favorite thing ever. I did wear glasses at the time, but I did not want to draw glasses, so I was like, you know what? She doesn't have glasses in her design. I gave her jeans, because I wore jeans with absolutely everything. Her hairstyle is very similar to like the hairstyle I wore my hair in high school. I also gave her lipstick in this one, which I don't wear lipstick that often in real life, but I'm guessing at the time I really wanted to get that like red theme going because red was like my favorite color at the time and still very much is, hence it being a big part of my Sona's design. But this was the first design of my Sona like pretty much ever, and here's like the adorable art that Flynn made of our Sonas 4 years ago. For context, my pride flag technically is different now from what it was in this picture. Look at how cute, we're just being besties, and I was really happy with how they drew my Sona. Like, I feel like they drew my Sona better than I did. It felt more like me than my drawing of the Sona. Also, don't mind the like hand that's a rectangle, because it was a reference, I wasn't posting it anywhere, so I was like, you know what, I'm lazy on this second hand. The next time I designed my Sona was for my like old YouTube banner, when I first went back to YouTube, and that one was just a face. It was pretty simple, and that one was just based on my actual appearance. Messy curls, red glasses, pretty straightforward because it's just, you know, a face and hair. And then we get to a few months later when I wanted to tell stories about myself and I wanted it to feel more personal, so I was like, you know what? I need sprites. And I made my first sprites for the channel. The design is very, very similar to the design for my first Sona, but I added in those little shoulder cutouts because I thought those were cute. Some of my like favorite outfits growing up had those little shoulder cutouts. I also added in those hoodie strings. I also added in beauty marks and glasses. And she felt like a character that I could use to represent myself. I think the Sona was so cute, and my favorite thing about the Sona is how expressive I made her. Like, I drew so many different expressions, different mouth shapes. Even though over time, like, I didn't like the anatomy and how little of her I drew, I was very happy with how expressive she is. Like, I think she does a good job showing my feelings, because sometimes my tone of voice doesn't indicate how I'm feeling well enough in the video. Whereas like lately I've been trying to get better with like doing a little bit of voice acting in my stuff to help make up for that, but having a Sona that's like more expressive and shows how I feel, or shows the level of hype I want to include, is very helpful. Here's a few of her expressions. She's so silly. I really love this Sona design because I had a lot of fun with it and kind of went in a cartoon direction. And this design is kind of the base design that I've been using for quite like the past few years now, since 2021. I have some more drawings of my Sona in this outfit. If you want to count like other Sonas I made, I also have my like Avatar The Last Airbender Sona. Like, she's got 2 pixels in this whole drawing, but I like designed her, and if I remember correctly, her element is based on a personality quiz I took, and she's there hanging out with Flynn. It's fun because later Flynn actually redrew these characters like with a focus on them instead of them being background characters, and I love how they draw my character here. It's so cute. I guess they're just better at drawing me than I am. I also have a Genshin Sona that I designed in 2022. I have a whole video talking about the design, and then another video this year where I made a 3D model of the Sona. I'm trying to work on a video now with like an animation of this character, but animation is hard and I'm at the point where I need to animate like combat, so I've been a little scared to continue working on this project, but once I finish it I'm really excited to share it with you guys because it's so silly. In 2023, I made a new set of sprites for this Sona design. The design is pretty consistent with the 2021 design. I added in a visible ear that has a stud earring, whereas I think my original concept for my Sona had hoops. I also had the anatomy be a bit more realistic and closer to like my art style at the time of drawing it. And I went a bit more elaborate on the shading. Like you can see that the pose for the sprites and like the appearance of these sprites is kind of VTuber inspired. I think it was when I started seeing more like VTuber content and really liking how their sprites had a lot of personality. I kind of took inspiration from VTuber models when I made my own Sona sprites, but you know, not having the effort to make my own VTuber model. I think she's cute. I think the colors here are more realized and the design feels more polished. The quality compared to the 2021 sprites definitely feels like an improvement, but also she doesn't feel as expressive as my 2021 Sona because like I went a little more realistic than cartoony, so I feel like I could have done a little bit more with her expressions. Here's more drawings of my Sona that I did over the years. And that brings us to my current Sona design, the redesign. Obviously, I still need to make a lot more stuff to like actually finish this like channel rebrand, but the first step for me was to finish the redesign of my Sona so I'd have a starting point. The outfit I'd been like brainstorming for quite a few months by the time I drew this. I wanted to have a lot of nods to the original designs while having it be a little updated and more interesting. You can kind of see that I took a lot of inspiration from VTubers this time around, because I really like how interesting and unique the designs of VTubers are, so I wanted to kind of take a little bit of that and incorporate it into my Sona while still having her be simple enough to draw her repeatedly without crying. I wanted to still keep the hoodie with the cutouts because that felt very iconic to my character at least, but underneath the hoodie I layered it with a dress that had a waistline similar to like one of my favorite dresses. It also has pockets because dresses with pockets are simply superior. Originally my color scheme for this was only going to be red and purple since those are my favorite colors, which if you've watched my web series Mascot and Mouse you could probably have figured that out by now. When I like don't know what to design I just stick to my favorite colors, but I should probably try other colors. Maybe I should make a design of my least favorite colors, that'd be fun. But for my Sona, it's like, it's supposed to represent me, so she's gotta have some of my favorite colors in there. So I added the purples and reds, but I wanted to follow that, what is it, like 50-30-10 rule? That doesn't even add up to 100. You know, like the rule, I can't remember what it is, but like some rule of color theory where you have a main color, a side color, and like an accent color. And having only red and purple didn't feel like enough going on, so I decided to bring in more of those yellow and gold tones that I had in the eyes and earrings into the other parts of the design. I added gold to like the trim of the dress at my friend Flynn's suggestion, and I also added some gold to the aglets of the hoodie strings and the shoelaces. And it kind of helps add a little bit more interest to the overall design and kind of helps disperse that yellow throughout the design. I also gave her a choker because like sometimes I wear chokers, I think they're cute, they're fun. Even though my eyes in real life are brown, I kind of with the shading of the eye and like the highlights went in a more yellow direction, with the highlights at least. I made her eyes a little more light brown so they'd stick out and kind of be more of a focal point in the design. I added another layer of ruffles underneath the skirt because back when I did my Project Sekai Part 3 challenge, I really liked how the ruffles in Enna's skirt specifically looked, so I thought I would add that to my Sona, and I think that the yellow trim separating the layers does a really good job of like making it look interesting to the eye. And the hairstyle I guess is also a big change from my old Sona. The old Sona used to have like longer hair. You know, even though in real life obviously my hair length changes a lot over time. I know my sister has mentioned that like I always look the most like myself when my hair is roughly shoulder length or like above shoulder length, so I figured I would have that carry on over to my Sona. And I kind of like it. It feels like it helps like section off the head and like looks cute in this chibi style that I'm drawing her in at least. Overall, this Sona redesign was a lot of fun. She feels like more bubbly and I guess a little bit more VTuber inspired than my previous designs. Part of why I ultimately decided that I wanted to redesign my Sona was because as much as I love my old Sona, I think she's adorable, she's also kind of an immortalization of how I looked in high school. And I'm very much not a high schooler anymore. And I feel like I've grown a lot as a person since the person I was when I designed this Sona, so I thought it'd be fun to have her design grow up with me a little bit. Funny enough, she looks a bit younger in her design now. She's a little bit more brightly colored and cartoonish. But she feels a bit more me, like I guess as who I am now, versus my old Sona feeling more like who I was 4 years ago. We'll see how long this design actually lasts though, and like how long I draw this design, we'll see. But this is what my new Sona looks like. Here's the big reveal. I mean, like, don't get me wrong, I love my old Sona. I don't know, I think it's time for something new. Wait, what's happening? But yeah, this is my Sona redesign. I'm still working on like the channel rebrand, I'll probably update my card and all that stuff. This is like the first step obviously, and it's one of the daunting ones because it's like how people see me on the internet, I guess. But I'm trying to have fun with it, and also I'm not fully throwing away my old Sona in the trash. Like, maybe from time to time you'll see me use my old Sona design to represent myself. It's still me. I don't like hate my old Sona, I just thought it'd be fun to make another version. But yeah, this is the evolution of my Sona. This is what I look like now, and we'll see how many sprites I end up making, or if it's just gonna be the one. But yeah, this is me. Anyway, thanks for watching this far. It was fun to go on a rant about my Sonas. I'm trying to keep it concise because I work full-time now, so I can't like make these super long voiceovers as easily. I don't have as much time to edit those, so I wanted to make something a little more concise. But thank you so much for watching the video and hearing me rant about my Sona for the past like 20 minutes of footage that I get to edit down. We'll see how long this new Sona lasts. We'll see what I do with her. If you have a Sona or have ever designed a Sona, let me know in the comments like what affected the design of your Sona. And until next time, I'll surely see you around. Thanks for watching!